The film begins in the year 1605, specifically in the city of London. There is a revolutionary activist named Guy who tries to blow up the Parliament building because he opposes the ruling system due to the corruption of the English government at that time. And while Guy was placing the explosives under the building, the king's soldiers arrived and arrested him. He was sentenced to execution in front of all the city's residents so that the king could intimidate the people and ensure that no one would oppose the ruling system again. Then the story moves to the present time, where we see a revolutionary activist named V who wears his mask and is planning to start a revolution that will completely change England in order to eliminate the injustice and corruption of the government. At the same time, there is a girl named Evie sitting in front of her mirror listening to a broadcaster on television. That broadcaster's name is Lewis. He is praising the English government and saying that the situation in the country has become very bad because of the corruption of the political opposition who object to the regime. So Evie turns off the television and goes out to meet her boyfriend. By coincidence, she is spotted by two men who work for a government political party, and they try to assault her. But suddenly, V appears and attacks both of them, killing them with his daggers. Evie is amazed by his fighting skills and asks his name, so he tells her that his name is V. He tells her that he is just someone who wants to put an end to injustice and that his main goal is to take revenge on the corrupt government. When he notices that she is interested in what he's saying, he invites her to go with him to a musical performance. He promises her that he won't harm her and that she will really enjoy this performance. Evie agrees and goes with him. After a while, they arrive at the rooftop of a very tall building, and she tells him that there's no concert at this place, so he changes the subject. He tells her that on this very day, 400 years ago, a Syrian activist named Guy was sentenced to death because he opposed the government. He wanted to blow up the Parliament building, because all the officials gathered there and hold their conferences there. After he finishes talking, he plays music through all the microphones in the streets. He starts acting strangely, as if he were a maestro conducting the music. Suddenly, a building belonging to the British government explodes, and he is extremely happy because he has fulfilled his wish. Evie is shocked by what he has done and realizes that he is doing this to follow in Guy's footsteps. He wants to blow up all the government buildings to punish them for their corruption and oppression of the people. He also encourages the people to stand up for their rights. The next day, the Prime Minister meets with his team of investigators and asks them about the identity of the person who blew up the building. Detective Eric says that they reviewed the cameras in the area and saw a man wearing a mask with a girl named Evie, and they suspect that she is his accomplice. So the Prime Minister orders that both of them be arrested as quickly as possible and announces on all television channels that there is a terrorist who must be apprehended. Indeed, a TV channel appears reporting on the building explosion, saying that the terrorist was the one who blew up the building, and that he is trying to stir up unrest in the city in order to destabilize the country. At that moment, Evie is standing and watching television. We also find out that she works at a TV channel that is reporting about V. Meanwhile, Inspector Eric is sitting in his office trying to find any lead that could help him track down V, until he decides to arrest Evie to interrogate her because he suspects that she had a hand in the building explosion, so he goes to raid her apartment, and luckily he doesn't find her there. But by chance, he sees her work ID and decides to go arrest her at her workplace. At that moment, V arrives at the TV channel where she works, pulls out an explosive belt for the security guard, and orders him to take him to the live broadcast room. So the guard is forced to obey his orders, and as soon as V enters the room, he threatens everyone there that he will blow up the building if they don't do as he says. He gives them a CD with a video on it and orders them to play it and broadcast it on the channel. At that moment, Evie finds out what's happening, so she tries to escape from the building before they blow it up. But then Inspector Eric arrives and chases after her to arrest her, but she manages to escape from him and hides in the workers' room. Suddenly, he appears on television and starts speaking to the people, telling them that the government's corruption is increasing every day and that they must take a stand and start a revolution against the government. He urges them not to remain silent in the face of the oppression and tyranny they are subjected to, and to demand freedom and justice. Then he addresses the Prime Minister directly, threatening that he will kill him in order to put an end to his corrupt rule. He also announces that he will blow up the Parliament building on the 5th of November next year. We learn that he chose this specific day because, on the same date 400 years ago, a revolutionary activist tried to blow up the Parliament building. That's why he wants to blow up the building on the same day, as a tribute to the memory of Guy. At that moment, a detective manages to break into the broadcast room where he is. But he is surprised to find that all the workers are wearing his mask to distract the police and help him escape easily. So he tells one of the workers that there is a bomb in the control room and it will explode in just 10 minutes. Eric is shocked and rushes to the control room, but suddenly V appears, kills all the officers, and escapes quickly before the police can surround the building and arrest him. On his way out, a police officer appears and orders him to surrender, but Eve intervenes at the last moment and sprays the officer with a sedative. But before the officer falls to the ground, he hits her with his gun and loses consciousness. V is surprised that she saved him. After thinking it over, he decides to take her with him because the police will think she's his accomplice. Moments later, all the media outlets praise the English government and lie to the public, claiming that the police killed V and got rid of him for good. When Evie regains consciousness, she finds herself in V's house and is amazed by the rare books and paintings he owns. She notices that his house is located underground. At that moment, V is cooking and welcomes her to his home, telling her that the police have surely discovered her identity and are currently searching for her. That's why she has to stay with him in his house until the 5th of November next year. She objects to what he says, getting very upset, and tells him that she can't live with him for all that time. On top of that, she doesn't trust him. After a while, he prepares breakfast, and Evie apologizes to him for the way she spoke to him. Suddenly, she notices that he has a lot of burns on his hand and asks him about them. He gets flustered and tells her that he was caught in a fire a long time ago, then changes the subject and asks her about her family. She tells him that the government killed her entire family because they were against the regime. She lets him know that she admires his intelligence, but she can't stand his plan to blow up the building, the parliament building, because she thinks that blowing it up won't fix anything in the country. And the only solution to get rid of corruption is to stage a coup against the regime, so he gives her. And he tells her that the government managed to plant fear in people's hearts to make sure that no one would object to any of their decisions. That's why blowing up this building will serve as a wake-up call for them, and it will encourage them to stand up and defend their rights no matter what happens. Night falls, and the famous broadcaster Louis is in the bathroom watching his own show on television. He starts talking about V and Evie, calling them terrorists, and saying they should be executed as an example to anyone who opposes the government. Suddenly, he finds V standing behind him, telling him that he will take revenge on him for what he did to him 5 years ago. However, it isn't made clear what exactly happened to him 5 years ago. After a while, Inspector Eric gets a call from his assistant, who tells him that Louis has been killed in his apartment, so Eric goes to investigate the crime. He discovers that Louis died from poisoning, and that there is a red rose next to his body, which makes him suspect that V is the one who did it, since all of V's crimes are philosophical and everything he does has a reason and a motive. When Eric returns to his office, he tries to gather information about Louis and tells his assistant that Louis was a commander in the army and was responsible for a secret prison where political dissidents were detained. But for some unknown reason, all the records of that prison have disappeared and are nowhere to be found. So he starts connecting the dots and concludes that F had some connection to Louis and must have killed him for a specific reason. Or maybe he was one of the prisoners who were held in that prison. He then goes to meet a general in the army named Tony and asks him what he knows about the prison that Louis was in charge of. Tony dodges his question and tells him that the prison was a secret facility and no one knew anything about it except for the military leadership and the prime minister. On the other hand, she is sitting with F and telling him about her family, saying that they were political dissidents who used to distribute leaflets to people to incite a revolution against the president. One day, a special forces unit stormed their house, killed her mother right in front of her eyes, and arrested her father. They kept torturing him in prison until he died. Ever since her parents died, she has been extremely afraid of the government, and she wishes she could overcome that fear and stand up for her rights, even if just once. After she finishes saying this, she offers to help F and stand with him against the oppressive government, so she can get justice for her parents who died defending their country. F agrees and sends her to meet a priest named Stanley. He is the highest-ranking priest in England and uses his authority to support the English government. There, Evie disguises herself as a little girl and waits for Stanley in a room because he likes to have relationships with young girls. As soon as he enters the room, she tells him that he needs to escape quickly because V wants to kill him. Stanley mocks her words because he thinks she's just a little girl. But suddenly, V actually bursts into the room. As soon as Evie sees him, she quickly runs away from the place. V realizes that she betrayed him in order to escape from the house. So he is forced to ignore her and kill Stanley, then quickly escapes from the place. It was clear that there was a specific reason that made him kill him. As usual, Detective Eric arrives at the crime scene and finds Stanley dead in the same way that the broadcaster Louis was killed. And once again, the red rose is found next to him. At that time, Evie is at her friend Gordon's house. Gordon works as a broadcaster, so she asks him if she can stay at his apartment for a few days until she finds a place to live. Gordon agrees and shows her a secret room in his apartment where he keeps rare items. Evie notices that he has an old copy of the Quran dating back to the 14th century. Gordon tells her that he is not Muslim, but the beauty of the Quran's words always captivates him, and he feels at peace whenever he reads its verses. He adds that you don't have to be Muslim to appreciate its beauty. We also learn that Gordon is a famous talk show host and is considered the only journalist who doesn't support the English government. He knows they are corrupt and destroying the country, but there's nothing he can do about it. We go back to Inspector Eric, who is in the lab with a geneticist named Delia. He gives her the red rose that he has. He leaves it next to the bodies of the victims who were killed and asks her if she knows anything about this rose. Delia is shocked and says that this rose is called Carson and is used to make a very powerful poison. It was supposed to have gone extinct hundreds of years ago. It's clear that she's nervous and knows something about V. After that, Eric returns to his office and tells his assistant that he found the files of the secret prison where the journalist Louis, who was killed, used to work. He discovered that V killed all the officials who worked in that prison except for one doctor, Dr. Delia, who is a geneticist. So Eric realizes that Delia is the next victim. He decides to go to her apartment to save her before she gets killed. Night falls, and he actually goes to Dr. Delia's apartment. She tells him that she knew he would come to take revenge on her and kill her, and she apologizes for being the reason his life was destroyed. He tells her that he forgives her, and lets her know that he injected her with poison while she was sleeping, and that she will die in 5 minutes. He did this because he doesn't want her to suffer while she dies. When Eric arrives at Delia's apartment, he finds her dead, and next to her he finds her diaries. He reads the diaries and discovers that she also used to work in a secret prison run by the British government. She was in charge of that prison along with the broadcaster Louis and Reverend Stanley. The purpose of that prison was to conduct experiments on the inmates, where they would inject them with a very dangerous virus because they wanted to study the effects of this virus. This was because the Prime Minister wanted to spread this virus throughout all of Europe so that he could exploit the weakness of the European countries at that time and be able to conquer them. And because of how dangerous this virus was, all the prisoners in the prison died except for just one inmate prisoner, number 5, and that's who he is. This was because his cells regenerated at an extraordinary rate and were fighting off the viruses. One day, a huge explosion occurred in the prison and all the doctors were fleeing. Dr. Delia was shocked to see that V had come out of his cell, his body deformed, screaming loudly and declaring that he would take revenge on everyone responsible for that prison. The next day, Eve is watching her friend Gordon's talk show and is stunned when she sees him mocking the Prime Minister for not being able to catch V. She talks to him and advises him to apologize to the Prime Minister on his show, because he's a cruel man and will punish him for what he did. But Gordon refuses and reassures her that nothing will happen to him, because no one even knows that he lives in that house in the first place. At night, while Eve is sleeping in her room, she suddenly hears gunshots and sees Gordon rushing into her room, telling her to hide quickly. She crawls under the bed and sees special police forces arresting Gordon. Then Creedy, the Prime Minister's assistant, arrives and hits him on the head, knocking him unconscious. As soon as Evie notices that the police have left, she tries to escape through the window, but unfortunately, she gets caught and is imprisoned in a secret jail. A police investigator interrogates her and offers to release her from prison if she tells him V's whereabouts. Evie becomes flustered and doesn't know what to do. But in the end, she refuses to reveal V's location, because she knows that he has a cause he's fighting for, which is to expose the government's corruption and encourage people to stand up for their rights. Because of her refusal, the investigator shaves her head and continues to torture her for 4 months. Yet she remains determined not to reveal V's location. One day, she hears a strange sound in her cell and finds a small hole in the wall. Inside it, there's a letter written by a woman imprisoned in the cell next to hers. In this letter, she tells the story of her life. She says that she has been imprisoned in this jail for 10 years. At that time, there was chaos in the city, and the government raided her house and imprisoned her to conduct genetic experiments on her. And although she doesn't know the identity of the prisoner in the cell next to hers, she hopes that they will escape from this prison, stand up for the people, and lead a revolution against the government. After that, the investigator interrogates her one last time, and this time threatens her that he will hand her over if she doesn't confess to Phi's whereabouts. She refuses to confess and tells him that she's no longer afraid of death, and that she is now ready to face death. When the day comes for her to be presented, the investigator tells her that she is no longer afraid, that she is free, and that she can leave. Then he walks away. Evie leaves, shocked by his words, and steps out of the cell, not understanding anything. She discovers that the cell guard was actually a statue, and that the prison she was in was just a room in V's house, and that it was V who had been torturing her all this time. At this point, Evie breaks down, gets angry, confronts him about what he did, and asks him why he tortured her mercilessly for 4 months. He tells her that he had to do it so she could overcome her fear of the government, because she had told him that she was extremely afraid of the government ever since her parents died, and now she is free and can live without any restraints. Before he can finish speaking, she breaks down in tears, so he takes her outside to get some fresh air. As soon as she stands under the rain, she starts to feel happy and says that she's no longer afraid and finally feels free. The next day, she talks to him and tells him that she's leaving, promising that she won't tell anyone about his whereabouts. He tells her that he trusts her and reveals that he was imprisoned in a secret prison run by the British government. He explains that the letter she found in the cell belonged to a prisoner named Amy, who was held in the cell next to his. When he read it, he was deeply moved and decided to fulfill her request to stand up for the people and to start a revolution that would change all of England. As soon as Evie leaves, he breaks down and throws his mask on the ground. It's clear that he loves her deeply and doesn't want her to leave him at all. At that moment, the Prime Minister meets with his investigators. He asks them to secure the streets very thoroughly, because the 5th of November is approaching, and surely, right now, someone is preparing to destroy the Parliament building. He orders them to declare a curfew in the streets so that the people don't start a revolution and cause a coup in the country. The next day, Creedy, the Prime Minister's assistant, goes to him and asks him to kidnap the Prime Minister and hand him over so he can kill him. In exchange, he will turn himself in and reveal his identity. Creedy agrees because this is a big opportunity for him. That way, he will be able to take the position of Prime Minister once the current one is dead. After that, he starts his plan and sends out a huge number of copies of his mask to all the residents of London, so that they will join the revolution, stand up against the English government, and demand justice and equality. Then comes the 5th of November, and there's a little girl wearing V's mask, drawing his symbol on the wall. A police officer comes and shoots her, killing her in the street, which enrages the people as soon as they see what happened. They decide to start a revolution against the regime, and all of them move toward the parliament building to watch it explode, just as was planned. At that moment, V returns home and is surprised to find Eve waiting for him. She tells him that she wants to help him blow up the parliament building. V agrees and takes her to an abandoned tunnel where there is a train filled with explosives. He tells her that this train is located beneath Parliament and will head directly toward it as soon as he presses the activation button. He asks her to press the activation button so the building will explode, because he's going to turn himself in to the Prime Minister and take revenge on him for all the corruption he caused. Eve tries to stop him and confesses her love for him, asking him not to turn himself in because he has become a revolutionary and an important symbol for the people. He tells her that he must achieve his goal, help the people, and make them stand up for their rights no matter the cost. After that, he leaves her and goes to meet Creedy, finding that he has kept his promise and handed over the Prime Minister, killing him in front of him. Creedy then asks him to keep his promise as well and take off the mask from his face. But here, V refuses and tells him that no one is allowed to know his identity, except in one case, which is if he dies. He also warns that if Creedy and his men think about shooting him, it would be a wrong decision, because if they run out of bullets and he is still alive, he will kill them all without mercy. Creedy gets angry and he and his men open fire on him, but they are shocked to see that he is unaffected by the bullets. He then starts killing them one by one until he gets close to Creedy and tells him that, yes, he is human and can die, but he considers himself an idea and ideas are impossible to kill. After he finishes speaking, he kills Creedy and removes the bullets he was wearing. Unfortunately, V is wounded and on the verge of death. He goes to Eve, confesses his love to her, and asks her not to be afraid of anyone, and not to let anything stand in her way, no matter what happens. After that, V dies, and Eve places him inside a train loaded with explosives. She decides to set it in motion to blow up the parliament building. Then Inspector Eric arrives and asks her to surrender, threatening to kill her if she starts the train. But she refuses and tells him that people need hope to make them stand up for their rights, and that there will no longer be a building for corrupt officials to gather in again. At that moment, all the people are wearing V's mask and approaching the parliament building to see whether V's promise will come true, and if the parliament will be blown up on the 5th of November or not. At that time, Evie starts the train, and the parliament building explodes in front of all the people of England. Evie tells Inspector Eric that everyone will remember the 5th of November because of what V did, and that he is a great hero, because he sacrificed himself for the happiness of the people. Even though no one felt his pain and suffering, and because of him, people have now learned a very important lesson, which is that dignity and freedom are things a person must defend, even if it costs them their life. And that's how the movie ends.